In Western Europe, the 18th century and the time around it can be defined with one thing: the rest of Europe trying to contain French expansion. The French dominance over the continent of Europe was due to them being the most centralized and populous state in their region. The major nations in Western Europe were Spain, England, France, Austria, and the Netherlands. Spain controlled a lot of land all around Europe, but bad financial management caused them to go into decline. The Netherlands was a small but incredibly rich state, as they had a monopoly on the colonization of Asia for a while before Britain eclipsed them. Right at the start of the 18th century, the War of the Spanish Succession started with England, Savoy, Austria, the Netherlands, and Prussia all working together to fight France. This was because the heir to the Spanish throne was also in the French royal family, and the other great powers were worried that France could become too powerful. It ended in basically a tie. Minor territories were exchanged, and Philip V was allowed to gain the Spanish throne, but was also removed from the French succession. Meanwhile, in Eastern Europe, the Great Northern War was fought, where Russia, Poland, Denmark, and Prussia all fought against Sweden, who surprisingly had a very powerful military and economy, and could punch far above their weight. The Swedes were still outnumbered by such an incredible amount it didn't matter, and their defeat marked the end of their short stint as a great European power. Another country capable of punching far above their weight was Prussia. They were situated in eastern Germany and were one of the smallest nations to be considered a great power, as they had a string of smart leaders and a well-trained and professional army. The first partition of Poland happened during tensions between Russia and Austria over who would dominate Poland and the Ottomans, two states which controlled large swaths of land but had recently declined in power and were ready to be carved up. The leader of Prussia proposed that the three of them could agree on a partition of Poland, where they each gained land and influence to cool tensions, and Austria and Russia agreed. Poland was a highly corrupt and decentralized state that was essentially a puppet of its great power neighbors due to the libertum veto, where it only took one noble to veto a new law or decree. Eventually, Prussia, Austria, and Russia just completely partitioned them after a few revolts and seeing how weak they were. Going back to Western Europe, French support for America and its revolution put them into extreme debt, and the nobles partied while the French peasants were treated harshly and taxed so much that they could barely live. The peasants had enough and decided to overthrow their rulers and become a democracy. The rest of Europe saw this and thought this could inspire their people to revolt, as they had the same type of government that the French were overthrowing. In the War of the First Coalition, the main battle was the Siege of Toulon, where French Federalists and Royalists, supported by other European nations, revolted against the French Republic, and Napoleon crushed them. Napoleon then invaded Egypt and won in the Battle of the Pyramids, but then their fleet was destroyed and they had to retreat. Napoleon then fought against the Austrian Empire in northern Italy. Their armies faced off in the Battle of Marengo, and Napoleon crushed Austria. Napoleon was one of the greatest generals in history because of his ability to live off the land, which meant he didn't need to worry about supply lines and he could move very quickly, among other reasons. Napoleon crushed Austria again at the Battle of Austerlitz. Napoleon kept winning repeatedly, crushing basically all of Europe that kept allying against him. Britain, Portugal, Sweden, Prussia, Austria, the Ottomans, and Russia all allied against him in at least one of the coalitions, along with other minor nations. He made two crucial mistakes. The first was attacking Spain. It devolved into brutal guerrilla warfare due to how much the Spanish resisted Napoleon. The Peninsular War was even nicknamed Napoleon's Vietnam. His other mistake was with the continental system, where he forced all nations in Europe to stop trading with Britain in order to destroy their economy. But when Russia continued to trade with Britain, he invaded them. The Napoleon's invasion started out successful, but the Russians resorted to scorched earth tactics to prevent Napoleon's army from being able to live off the land. Also, Russia was very cold, and Napoleon didn't prepare for that. When it got to winter, his army was freezing and starving and very vulnerable. The Russians pushed them all the way back to Leipzig, and while that happened, the rest of Europe joined them in the Sixth Coalition. The Battle of Leipzig was known as the Battle of the Nations, and Napoleon was finally crushed. He ended up retreating all the way to Paris before getting captured. The Allied nations showed some mercy on him and allowed him to go to the island of Elba and continue ruling there. He ruled the island very well and continued to the continent and retook control of France, as a large amount of the army was still loyal to him. But yet again he was crushed at the Battle of Waterloo, and this time sent to St. Helena, where he died. After the Napoleonic Wars, which ended in 1915, Russia became significantly more powerful, and the Ottomans were falling off in this time, so Russia saw a path for expansion. They fought many wars against the Ottomans. Oftentimes, the Western great powers intervened on the side of the Ottomans. One of these examples was the Crimean War, where Britain, France, Sardinia, Piedmont, and the Ottomans fought Russia. It was a mild Western victory against Russia. In the 19th century, Italy and Germany also both unified. Italy did it under Sardinia Piedmont by fighting multiple wars against Austria with the support of France to conquer their puppet regimes and territory in Italy. With Germany, they had the help of a diplomatic genius named Otto von Bismarck. Germany was unified by the aforementioned state of Prussia. They attacked Denmark to unite the German states and conquer Denmark's German lands. Then they started the Brothers' War against Austria, which was another powerful German state, and they secured the north of Germany. They then goaded France into declaring war on Prussia and all of the other German states, and Prussia absolutely crushed them. This united Germany, and the new Germany seized Alsace-Lorraine from France, and that is the end of what I want to discuss.